They emailed.
Good afternoon, everybody. Great to see you all on a midwinter's day, and welcome to the January 30th, 2023 meeting of the Rotary Club of Raleigh. I'm the president, Tom Packer. And again, it's nice to see everybody in a full room. I think it's a great program today, but before that, we have a lot to get to because there's a lot going on. But as usual, we'll start out with an invitation. And Patty will begin. We'll be giving it to Patty. Thank you.
In Rotary, we have our vision statement, we have our mission statement, we have objects, and we have our four-way test. But it cropped up yesterday in our reading in church, in scripture, a phrase that I thought was also very applicable for us as Rotarians. It's very simple. When the prophet Micah says, protection from the know perhaps well. What does the Lord require of you? But to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with our God. And I think all of those things are terribly important. We are called to love justice. We are called to seek justice. We are called to work for justice in our communities and in our world. And we're called to care for those in need, to love those in need. We're called to seek the poor, the needy, the orphan, the widows, those who really need our help. That's what we do. And one of the things I thought was most challenging about the statement in Scripture is that it says this is a requirement. What does God require of it? Micah does not say if you get around to it, if you have some free time, if you feel like doing it. No, it says, what does the Lord require of you? But to do justice, to love kindness. It will come with that God. That's a good motto for Rotarians as well as our vision statement, our mission statement, our objects, and the forward test. Join me then in loving kindness and doing justice, and always walking humbly with our God. Okay. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Now the pledge of allegiance, you would stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, beautiful forsaken skies for and the waves of grain. For the birds, for mountains and the seas, its grace on thee. Sea to shining sea. All right, everyone. That's so lovely. Great to see everybody. Charlie, you stand back up again. We're going to introduce most important people here today, our guests, who have come to join us. And we always we appreciate having guests, whether they're asking through, thinking about joining the club. Whoever brings a guest, we appreciate that. And you're all very welcome to our lunch anytime. Charlie, I know you have a guest for two today, perhaps.
I do. Thank you. I got two. Let me third. Calvin Perry, please stand. Calvin's original from Houston, Texas. He's a graduate of Stephen F. Austin State University in Nacogdoches, Texas. He's with Prudential Investments as a financial advisor. He has just moved into the building. He's married with three grown daughters. With Calvin Perry. Welcome again. Thank you.
We refer to it as Mac and nowhere.
And please welcome also Mike Johnson. Mike's an NC State graduate, successful engineer with concrete pipe and precast. He does concrete pipes. His office, the headquarters that was kind of done, his works in his home office here in Raleigh. Friend of Lee Water, who I think Lee's here. But anyway, Mike Johnson.
I don't know, is there another one?
John Hicks, who's coming later.
Yeah. John will be, part of the membership.
Yeah.
Part of the membership.
And,
And, do we have other guests here today? I see a couple of new faces. Pete?
My returning guest, Tanya Bryan, she's the marketing and business development director here. She's from Valley, North Carolina, on the mountain.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
My name is Candace Blackenham, and I'm from Oakland. I've been there at Berkeley, at Supreme and Duke. That's why I'm still here. And been a PhD at CTS in Chicago, and I am professor of leadership at investment, and also professor of geology at Shaw University. And then on Sunday, I'm a teacher at Daisy Street, 710, right there.
Oh, great. Good, well, welcome. Well, I can hear in San Francisco. We have something wrong. Any other guests we have today? That keeps us great. Yes, in the back.
Yes. I've done so since 2007, which is big, here. But new locations, and we're still doing center items and the tour for events. We have special events and fundraisers when we want people going to the fundraiser to write a check from the top and the right place. So well, that big will look nice without going too much. We can accommodate 10 people to town, to the extent of. So the great thing is, you know, say, why, for free events, we can better a lot of ways people a full service for us to design something for you, or just picking up stuff.
Very good. I could have used you last month. For the centerpieces we had at our holiday month, I went to Ace Hardware and bought 12 snowmen. I did want to mention Charlie brought this to my attention. For me, at least, is before my time, but a longtime former member of the club, Dr. Henry Chandley, did pass away recently at the age of 88. I don't know how many in the club knew Dr. Chandley, but I thought I'd mention that in honor of a long-time member. Please remember the red buckets on the tables that benefit the Dementia Alliance of North Carolina. Heather, it's great to have you here today. There you are. Heather Hooper is the executive director of that organization. And there are little monopoly dollars and actually, if you don't have cash or change to put in. So it adds up over the course of the year. So please remember it. And we're very glad to do that. We're one of our long-time members now. And it's a great to continue. Charlie, do you mind calling? I'll be calling you again because you're always able to get at least one or two people with happy dollars. A lot going on over the weekend. I'm actually starting off. I'll put in $10 for two things. One is the best hockey game. Turned into a hockey fan to my wife here. I've ever seen I think it was Friday night, and the Canes came back in an amazing comeback
against the San Jose Sharks. And last night, as Phil and I saw, they beat the Boston Bruins, from one team in the league, 4-1. So anyway, $10 for the Carolina Hurricanes.
I give it now. It's good to see your brother David Evans back here. Good to see you, David. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm very happy that my daughter was. She is going to be giving a concert, coming Sunday, for Sounds of Overland at Wyman Well, but very free concert. And then City Club Raleigh has engaged her to give a concert, on the 29th floor of the Wells Fargo building for Valentine. But they're gonna have a dinner, a student dinner, followed by everyone who goes there for a concert at the end. So, this makes me very happy to see my daughter getting towards the board.
That's great. Thank you.
And I was talking.
I'll say about the same thing as Tom did. I had to go to that hockey game on Friday night. They were down 2 scores with like a minute 40 left. Put one in about a minute 40, put another one in with like 12 seconds left.
Okay, great. All those happy dollars go to the foundation. So thank you, everybody. Oh, Kurt.
Yeah, I would give money to the record in the Kansas City game, but they were already paid by Kansas City.
I did mention, the City Club was mentioned. As you know, we used to store a lot of our stuff at the City Club when we were having our luncheons there today. And they gave us a holiday that they were, we cleaned out everything out of storage, but they found some extra stuff tucked away somewhere, including about 50 cups, which is great. But they also brought, and Frank McCowney's here, who redid our banner, but this is the banner from 2014 that was made, celebrating a century of service from 1914. So these are authentic Rutgers Island banners that we now have. So thank you for returning this.
They finally declassified that.
I'm not gonna go there. I'm not gonna go there. Upcoming meetings, next week, we have, Val, who will talk to us about the state of, public education in the state, community colleges and universities. I should note though, that, she was introduced to us, by Jenny Heyman, Wilson Heyman's, wife, who, will accompany them here. So we'll get to revisit, visit again. It'd be great to see Jenny at the next meeting next Monday. Then the 13th, which is on Commencing State, we'll talk about how cooperative extension affects a lot of our lives. No meeting on President's Day, and then which should be very interesting at the end of the month, we have the North Carolina Film Office, which is much busier now than it has been in the past. It was a little bit lull, but they're having a lot of films made in the state now. And I haven't spoken to him, so I don't know if it's he or Guy Gaster will be talking to us at the end of the month. So the good meetings coming up. And here's a list of upcoming district events. They're a bit of ways away, at least a month from now, will be more coming about them. That will be listed in our weekly seminars as well. We did last Wednesday, as I mentioned, have a finance committee meeting led by our treasurer, Charlie Davis, to talk about our finances and especially how to invest our money in our foundation so that it brings the best return and keep giving money to local charities in the community that we support. David Forrest grabbed a screenshot of our meeting and passed it along. So there we are talking about our finances on our Zoom does not have a setting. This was, I think, a Microsoft Teams call, which I've never been on before, but it's a wild setting. So this is us talking last week. And next, we're going to resume our nosy neighbor part of the meeting. And for you guests, this is where we get to know one of our members a little bit better, ask a couple of personal questions about who they are, et cetera. So, Tommy, do you want to take it over from here?
Sure do.
Excellent.
Today's victim, neighbor is Tiffany Von Wright. Tiffany's coming on up and we'll kind of stand on this side by the owl and I'll let her take the podium so you guys can hear. There we go. So Tiffany's a relatively new member of our club, but I've gotten to know her over the last couple of months. Really enjoyed getting together. We have a lot of laughs. Maybe at other people's expense, maybe not. You'll never know. But that being said, Tiffany, why don't you lead us off? Tell us a little bit about your new position that you're in, the new role that you're in, types of customers that help you. Tell us about your business, if you don't mind.
I started with Richard Media Group a few months back. I represent 94.7 QDR. And yeah, Richard introduced me to them. It was a really great fit me professionally and personally and what I'm trying to accomplish here, especially on a local level. So anybody, I love to meet everybody and just sit down, grab a coffee, excuse me, and see how we can work together.
Great. What types of people are you looking for at work? What's a good target for you?
Private local companies, we're very, very invested in keeping our money here in Raleigh. I'm extremely passionate about that, especially in the community level as well.
Nice. And from a Rotary standpoint, a lot of you have kids or like me, maybe you were kids that grew up at Rotary or coming to events that if you've been to some of our service programs, Tiffany's been showing up with her kids. Will you talk a little bit about you and your kids and how they're involved with Rotary?
Yeah, so Rotary is very special to me. I come from an unorthodox upbringing. Rotary, the people in this room, several of you have raised me. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for many of you in this room. I'm sorry, it's a little bit emotional. It is extremely important to me that my kids and I are ingrained within this club. And be mentored by people who do nothing but give. And it's extremely special. It's very heartfelt for me if you can't tell. And I'm just humbled and excited to be here.
That's tough to improve on that. And a little bit about background for yourself and why you're here.
Essentially just to piggyback off of what I just said, I am really just trying to establish and give a strong foundation for myself and my kids. And what better way to do it than to be here with all of you guys. So thank you.
Thank you. We have
one
one more.
Okay.
That's okay. There's time. You're not done yet. No. You picked this question out, so I hope you like it. What was the craziest experience of your life? Wow.
Oh, okay. So I actually came. Okay.
I'm actually the people on Zoom can hear this.
I'm sorry. So I fell ill probably about 15 years ago. And found out that not only was I extremely sick, but I probably would never have kids. And since I don't have a family, that was a little bit of a heart gripping thing to hear. So I go into my neurosurgeon's office and we're getting ready to prep for my surgery to make sure that I'm unable to have children. And I find out that I was pregnant. And God has blessed me with a child. And so it's just a fantastic experience and a ride for sure. Good ride.
I've never heard that story. That's awesome. And for those of you that are Rotarians, hopefully you joined Rotary for more than showing up on Mondays and eating lunch. So hopefully as Rotarians, we get together with each other outside of here, we get to know each other. If you guys haven't gotten to know Tiffany or haven't had some time with her, arrange to get some coffee or some lunch or a happy hour, have a bit of beer, see what's going on in your life and share a little bit about yourself. Otherwise, that's today's Nosy Neighbor, Tiffany Von Wright. Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, that's great. It's wonderful to have you with us as a member of the staff here. Now, in membership, we will go on to Harris. It's my mistake. I mixed up the first and second reading, but Harrison will explain.
Hey, everyone, thank you so much for being here. It makes me happy to see a completely full room where we were trying to figure out where there were extra seats for people to sit down. So thank you all for being here. Last week was absolutely beautiful outside. Today, it's not raining. But I want to say real quick to all the guests who are here today, thank you so much for being here and being a part of Rotary. I hope that through this meeting that you kind of see just a small glimpse of what Rotary is all about, where our heartbeat is for our community. I think it's easy for us all to see when you turn on the TV to see how much brokenness there is in our world, in our community. The need is great, and so additional Rotarians, new members, potential members. We can't have enough Rotarians because there is such a great need in our community. I hope that you all see that this is a club, this is an organization that has its finger on the pulse of what's happening in our community, and we're trying to actively add value to it. So with that, there's a couple things. Yes. So first, we actually have our first reading today for Demonte Sanders. Demonte, will you please come up to the front real quick? I'm not exactly sure if everybody is familiar, but Demonte's been here. It's, I think, your third or fourth meeting. I'm so excited to have him as a potential member for Rotary. Demonte is today's first meeting. I have him as I will be your sponsor. That is. Today we have Demonte for his first reading. He was born from Smithfield, North Carolina, so local here. He was a captain of the Smithfield Selma High School football team. So we got a high school football team captain. We have Juicy, who was in oh my goodness, rugby. I feel like we could really start a rugby league. We have all of the pieces, right? Anyway, all that being said, he received his bachelor's degree from Elizabeth City State University in 2016, and in 2017 he started as a financial service representative for State Employees Credit Union. And in 2020 he became a collateral tech, handling auto titles and developing processes for back office tracking. Additionally, I saw that you're a board of trustees for the One Love Christian Church. How long have you been there? 3 years. 3 years. He has a heart for this community from the conversations I've had with him. And if you have not had an opportunity to meet him, please connect with him after the meeting, find an opportunity to grab a coffee with him or whatnot. So thank you so much for being here. We'll look forward to having you. Today we have our second reading for John Case. John, would you please join me up front real quick? I believe that quite a few in this room are familiar with John. We're also very excited to have you as a potential member for the Rotary Club of Raleigh. John Case is sponsored by Bill Moore. As a quick reminder, he is a member of Hayes Bar United Methodist Church, where John currently serves as United Methodist Men's president. He graduated from NC State, and he's been the last 10 years a real estate broker for Transit. Correct. As you know, quite a few people that are part of Rotary and stuff, what excites you about being people Rotary?
Well, you know, the devotion today was my heart. So Michael Fifth Day has been a special motivator and touchstone for me. So being a part of the community outside of the church that's also involved in doing service work is just means a lot to me. Being a former Eagle Scout too.
No. Very good. Well, thank you so much. If you have any questions about John, please reach out. And we we'll have this next week. Jessica Cunningham, she was getting her blue badge today, but her is having car trouble, so we'll get that to her next week when she's here. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Harrison. Next is a report. Richard David, our service chair, is in Dallas today, so I'll give the service report. Our service project for February, we completed the January service project a couple of weeks ago now, I suppose, with the Martin Luther King birthday and all the food packing events that we did. But if you recall last year, we worked with the Wake Up and Read partnership or organization The goal is to make sure that every child in North Carolina is reading at grade level by the end of grade 3. So, starting next week, please bring books to the meeting, or Richard will come to your house. He'll come to your house to pick up one book if you have it. Last year, we have my street that I live on, we have an email chain. Many of you may have that as well. And I put an email chain reflecting children's books. And you wouldn't believe the response I got from a lot of empty nesters who had dozens and dozens of these lying around or just didn't have a need for them. So think of innovative ways to get books, and we'll start that next week. I still have a follow-up, and there'll be one more to our bell ringing. If you recall last week, I gave the results. We won. We raised the most money for Salvation Army bell ringing during this next holiday season, beating the Raleigh Rotary Club. I am trying to fly the big golden bell out of Raleigh Rotary Club. And it's been a week, and they still haven't given it to us. They say they're looking for it. So I will track it down. I may need some help. Maybe some of the big Eric, Monty, some of the big guys. To persuade them to get us that big bell. Yeah, and the U.S. Attorney's Office. We'll get it. So anyway, we'll play that over here next week. Birthdays, non-anniversaries note this week, which is unusual, but that does give us a little extra time for lead-in to our speaker today. I brought my own magazine of our state that I subscribe to. I'm sure most of you know our state. It's a little hard to tell sometimes with maybe age differences. Paper magazines like this are more comfortable to people of my vintage, our vintage say, as opposed to being online. Our state, though, as you probably hear, is a very vibrant online presence as well, of course, these days. But having moved here when I did from out of state, this is just an invaluable resource. This magazine, I think, is the most colorful, personable magazine in Carolina. It covers, as they say, from Murphy to Manteo, but it covers the nooks and crannies, the people, small businesses, just the goings-ons, the out-of-the-way restaurants, festivals throughout the state. And anyway, I just really enjoy it. It's one of the few paper magazines that we still subscribe to. We look forward to getting each month in our mailbox. And I think all of you would enjoy it too, either online or in paper form. But let me read an introduction about our speaker today, who is the publisher of our magazine, Bernie Mann. And our state has been described as the premier travel, history, and culture publication in North Carolina. Bernie has been awarded the Order of the Longleaf Pine, one of the highest honors the governor can award, and the 2003 Charles Perrault Media Award for the promotion of North Carolina. Bernie's past chairman of the Board of Governors for the Greensboro Convention and Visitors Bureau, and past president of the Greensboro Symphony. Most importantly, or interestingly, Bernie has been a Greensboro Rotary member since 1990, is an active member still, and served as their president from 2006 to 2007. So Bernie knows Rotary and what we're all about very well. Prior to his career in magazine publishing, Bernie owned and operated 12 radio stations in North Carolina, Virginia, and Arkansas for 25 years. He received his bachelor's at Adelphi University in New York and attended Harvard Business School. Bernie lives in Greensboro with his wife Bobby. They have 3 children and 9 grandchildren. And Bernie, would like to take it from here? It's all yours.
Thank you very much for this chance to visit with you. It's good to see so many young people. In our club, our Rotary Club, Greensboro, it's for old men and their fathers. Some trouble getting new members. First, let me tell you the bad news. Bad news is that I'm in a business that's doing terrible. Print business in newspapers, as you may know, is not doing very well at all. Clatchy bought the News and Observer here in Raleigh about 10 years ago, and a couple of years ago, they declared Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The News and Observer used to have about 150,000 paid subscribers. Today, it's less than 40. And Warren Buffett, who likes to say he buys things and never sells them, he bought 65 newspapers 5 years ago, and last year he sold them all. Magazine business ain't doing much better. Sports Illustrated used to be a weekly, now it's a monthly. Entertainment Weekly would come out every week, now it comes out 6 times a year. Yet in 2022, our state had our best year ever. And you know what? If you don't, I'll get a chance to tell you. Let me start off by saying, as mentioned, I used to have the chance to be in the radio business. I own WKIX here at FM 96.1. And the radio business was a wonderful entrepreneurial business. It was a chance where you could own radio stations, and the government permitted only 7 to any one owner. So it was really a good opportunity to have many radio stations, but never more than 7. Well, the rule went away. And now big companies own all the radio stations. Probably 3 or 4 companies own 7,000 or 8,000 radio stations. And it's no longer a business that's an entrepreneurial business. I looked for something else to do, and someone offered me a chance to be a partner, silent partner in a magazine that was here, started here in Raleigh in 1933. And I know enough about myself to say I probably would not be a good silent partner. So for a year, this guy went around to everybody he thought had money and tried to find them partner to buy the magazine. They couldn't find anybody. Magazine was 48 pages, it was black and white, it was really ugly, and it didn't have any pizzazz. But it had one thing that is unique, and that it had 23,000 paid subscribers. Magazines have no assets at all, except paid subscribers. We have some broken down beds and chairs, but that's about it. So bankers never loan money to a magazine because there's no assets. So the whole point was, what can you do to make this magazine alive? It also had virtually no advertising. And although I didn't know anything about the magazine business, and I still don't know a lot, I know a little bit about how to sell advertising. So I said, okay, the owner by then had come to me and said, hey, the guy can't put the deal together. Do you want to buy it yourself? I said, okay, I'll give that a try. In radio, they used to send us loads of music. And so radio was not that hard. You put the music on, you have a silly disc jockey say a few words, and that's radio. Then I'm faced with a blank piece of paper. What do you do in the magazine business to make it different? To make it special, to make it unique. It was just about that time that I was admitted, I got a letter from Harvard University admitting me to a program there called Owner Precedence Program. It's for owners who own and run their own business. And it's for small companies under 100 million. So the first day of class, the professor goes around the room, he says to each person, what business are you in? So the fellow sitting next to me, I didn't know him at the time, but I do now, and he was Roger Berkowitz. He owned a chain of seafood restaurants called Beacon Seafood, 26 restaurants in and around Boston. So the professor comes in and you put your name in the front, you know, so the professor puts everybody by the first name. And he says, Roger, what business are you in? Roger says, I'm in the restaurant business. Professor says, no, you're not. You come back tomorrow morning and you tell class what business you're in. Okay, that's all for today. Oh, I'm next. What am I gonna say? Better not say I'm in the publishing business. Because what the point is that there was a advertising man in New York by the name of David Ogilvy. And he believed very strongly that he would not take a client unless he understood and unless they understood what he called the burr of singularity. What makes you special? What makes you different? And if they couldn't figure it out, and if he couldn't figure it out, he didn't even want the client. So next morning, class convenes. Professor says to Roger, Roger, what business are you in? Roger says, I'm in the seafood business. Professor says, exactly. That's what makes you unique. That's what you do that's special. Okay, Barney, what business are you in? I said, I'm in the beauty business. Every month, I'm going to produce a magazine that shows the beauty of where we live in North Carolina. North Carolina is a very special place. People love where they live. And that's what I'm going to show. So 25 years, we have never missed doing that every single month. 22 pages, uninterrupted, sometimes it's 24, of nothing but showing the beauty of where we live. Sometimes it's the coast, sometimes it's mountains, sometimes it's a variety of things. But the one principle that we never vary from, and that is we are always positive. In a world in which there's negativity, in which the news is terrible day after day, in which you say tomorrow the news will be better, tomorrow the news is worse, at least one place you can be certain that for 2.5 hours you're going to read our magazine and have a good time. My wife and I love to go to movies. We come out, spend 25 bucks, and we have a good time. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But I can assure you, you spend a couple hours with our magazine, you can have a good time. During the COVID terrible time, we never mentioned the word COVID. We never showed a picture of anybody with a mask on. Only showing the beauty, the wonderful things about North Carolina. The history, the people, the food. It's unending. There's so much to show because we live in such a great place. I have a friend who has a magazine called New Jersey Life. People live in New Jersey, but they don't live in it. We're so fortunate to live here and to live in this beautiful place in the January 65 degrees. So over the years, I mean, nothing happens quickly. Everything, as you know, is business that takes a while to build up. We started doing events. We did it because when I was in radio, we used to have things called remote broadcasts. And then we would have a guy with a microphone in a used car lot, and a girl in a bikini giving away ice cream in the hope that somebody would show up. So I went to the president of the hotel in Asheville, Grove Park Hotel, and Craig Madison was very qualified guy, and I said, I'd like to have an event here in your hotel so that our readers can physically get involved in the magazine. Magazine is two-dimensional. I'd like to have them get involved with us. And I'd like to have it music and food and nothing but just a good time about where we live. And I want to call it the best of our state. Looks at me for a long time. And he says, that is the dumbest idea I've ever heard. He says, that idea is so stupid that the only time I'd ever let you in my hotel is the first week in January, when nobody shows up. It's right after New Year's. Oh, I got 510 empty rooms, and you can't score anything up. Go ahead. But the best part of that story, and now we sell out all the rooms. We've been doing this for 23 years. But the best part of the story is that Craig goes to hotel conventions, and he tells hotels how to fill their rooms in January. So that's you know, one of the interesting things that happened to me over the last few years is I don't have anybody answering my phone. If somebody wants to talk to the publisher, I don't have anybody screaming call. So it's about 2:30 in the afternoon. And we get this call. And the gentleman says, I just had a terrible morning. He says, a lot of frustration, a lot of difficulty. And I came back to my office and the magazine had come. And so he says, I read it and I want to tell you how much better I feel, how much more enthused I feel, how much more excited about my job. He says, my name is Mark Bassenite. And Mark Bassenite was the president pro tem of the North Carolina Senate. Wow. How thrilled I was to get that phone. Because I hope that's what happens to a lot of people. That they get our magazine and they take time to read it, and they have a good time to read it. We live in a world in which there's so much bad news, but at least in that time, we're going to be positive and we're going to have a good time. The other thing that interestingly happened is that Steve Troxler, who is the Commissioner of Agriculture, and I know him, he's from Guilford County, but I don't know him that well. But Steve called me one day and he said, I need your help. I said, well, you need my help. He says, here's our problem. We're the only state in America that doesn't have the opportunity to serve beer at the state fair. He says, every time I try to do it, the church groups shoot me down. He says, my idea is to have you sponsor a guild house where beer would be served under strict control, but that it would be sponsored by your magazine. He says, I think if we can have your magazine sponsored, we can get it done. I said, what he says, I know what you're saying. He says, I will have plenty of men in blue blazers, state policemen, to make sure that everything is followed correctly, because I don't want to be in trouble. We have 1 million people who come to the state fair, and I'm not going to have any trouble at all. So, okay, Steve. And so that's the way it's been over the last 5 years. Beer is served at the state fair as well as wine, and very strictly controlled and sponsored by our magazine. So that the things that make a difference, I think, is the things we try to get accomplished. About 12, 15 years ago, the head of public television, Tom Howell, UNC TV, over in Chapel Hill, he came to see me and he said, I have this idea for a TV show. He says, the hardest part of a TV show is the writing, the material. He says, but you have years and years of that. He says, why don't we have a TV show about your magazine? I said, gee, that's a great idea. So they did a fabulous job of putting together a half-hour TV show featuring stories from our magazine. And it runs on Thursday nights at 8 o'clock. And it's just a great show. It gets, so far it's gotten 17 Emmy Awards. And I'm proud of it, and of course, the TV station is very proud of it. is one of those things that is just super, because it shows off the beauty of the world. Can't take that for granted. Not every place is wonderful. Not every place is terrific. But we're so fortunate in where we live. You know, one of the things that make a difference for me is I can control the advertising. I can control it. I can control the editorial. I'm not sure I can always control the advertising. And so we've been very careful on some things that we take and what we don't take. For example, we do not take political advertising. I think it's mean-spirited. I think it's not pleasant, and I don't buy my things. So anytime somebody who wants to give us an ad, my goodness, it's a terrible frustration, because as you know, in political season, the amount of money that's spent is breathtaking. They don't come with checkbooks, they come with bags of money. Shopping bags, cash. And I wish I could tell you that I don't need it. And that's not so. But what is so is that I don't think it's right. And I think you have to be committed to what you feel is right. So we had a spa gave me an ad, and one of the things that has happened to this as well is in North Carolina, the 4th and 8th grades is where they teach North Carolina history. So our magazine started to become almost a textbook in school all over the state, and I know that because we get so many school libraries who buy subscriptions from us. So I'm very aware of a 4th and 8th grader picking up our magazine. So this is an ad from a spa, and the spa, I called the owner and I said, look, I appreciate your business, but I think you have too much cleavage in the ad. He said, fine, thank you for telling me, I'll get you another ad. So then we had a beer. Starts with an M and ends with an R. And the beer gave us an ad, and they attended the Paris Lighthouse. And they made it into a beer tap. And so I called the ad agency and I said, guys, we have people who love North Carolina, and Paris Lighthouse is one of those wonderful things in North Carolina that people really enjoy. And I don't think making it to a beer tap is going to win you any friends. And the ad agency, as you might expect, said, oh, no, it's terrific. It is so wonderful. Everybody loves it. We're going to, it's just a great ad. I said, well, maybe a great ad, but it's not going to be great in my magazine because I'm not going to run it. He says to me, you don't run this ad, you will never get business from us again. And he's right. We have never gotten business from them. But you know, I think you sound is still saying to yourself, what do you want? What is important? What is significant? What do people count on when they pay $34.95 for a year's subscription to our magazine? We have 47,000 people who have given me money 3 years in advance, by $80 or more. And when we ask them, why are you doing that? They say the same thing, all of them say the same thing at the same time. They say, I don't want to miss an issue. Wow. That is so super. And I'm so proud of that. So the most important thing for me is to say to you, thank you for the enthusiasm that you have for our magazine. I assure you that it will not change. I know that because 5 years ago, I did an ESOP, that is an employee stock ownership plan. So my magazine is not owned by me anymore, it's owned by employees. They are fixed on making sure that this magazine doesn't change hands. It doesn't change mood. It doesn't change quality. And I'm very proud of that because that not only ensures that these people who are built by magazine will get to a return, but more than that, thousands of people who have liked our magazine to be sure that the new owner takes over, it's not going to change. The owners are there now. So what has happened to us? From the 23,000 paid subscribers that we had on our magazine, today we have 180,000 paid subscribers. We have more paid subscribers than every daily newspaper in America, except the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times. More than US Today, more than Washington Post, more than the Raleigh News Observer. And it's all because of one thing. And that is each month we hold up a mirror and let you see where you live. Thank you very much.
Any questions? Anybody? Charlie, over here, Charlie.
Thanks for coming with us. Could you touch on our state travel factors like seeing the back pages, Scotland, Ireland, Charleston, Savannah?
Yeah.
How many people go? And tell us a little about that.
And just for those on Zoom, Charlie asked about their travel packages that they offer in the magazine.
Charlie, thank you very much for mentioning that. That grew out of just a few trips here in North Carolina. And now this year for 2023, we have 23 trips all over the world. And it's interesting too, because I mean, we now have a group today in Hawaii. Anybody can go to Hawaii, it'll be us. But 48 people went with us. And they say the most wonderful thing, they say, we know if we go with our state, it's gonna be a good trip. And we try to make it special, we try to do some extra things. We always have a representative from our company on these trips. So thank you for asking that.
I got one. While you know we have a great state with plenty of hot dog joints and things to see. Do you ever have a hard time finding things to fill that next magazine?
I mean, that's a great question. Do we have a hard time finding things? We really don't. I mean, because things keep changing so beautifully. I mean, if you've been to Kinston lately, you know how that little town, a tobacco town, all of a sudden now had a great restaurant, had a motel that opened, had a variety of things. So the community changes, the quality of food changes, the quality of accommodations keep changing. All for the better. All for the better. And we have a school of teachers, people how to cook in Charlotte. And those people are staying in North Carolina and they're opening restaurants. And that gets better and better. I just noticed the story, 15 new restaurants are opening in Raleigh this year. 15. That's incredible. They're all different types. You know, Spanish food, Mexican food, all kinds of things. So, you know, it keeps getting better.
And I will say that the standards of our state are very high as far as their content. Shortly after I moved here, I had a unique North Carolina experience, and I like to write. I wrote an article, and I submitted it to our state magazine, and they very gently said, "No, thank you." Not exactly what we're looking for. I'll get the newsletter and they can't say no. So. No. Yeah.
I really like your, or our state's away message podcast. And I was wondering if you could comment on that and generally how podcasting has evolved in connection with magazines.
Well, that's interesting. So you're the one who. The problem with podcasting is that there's too many of them. And it's so easy to put podcasts together. And I just didn't think that that was the best way that I could put my energy and effort and a little bit of money together. I'm glad you enjoyed that. We had it for a short time. And I think we did have 11 or 12 people. But, you know, I lay that against the thousands that watch our TV show, and then the close to 1 million people who read our magazine. There's about 4 people read each magazine. So we have published, a print run is 235,000. And we're roughly 1 million people who see each magazine. So I can't say it's worth a lot of time to put in the pot.
Well, Bernie, this has just been great. As a token of our appreciation, we'd like to give you a cup to remember us by and take it back to the Rotary Club. And the talking has been excellent. And our state is one of my favorite magazines. And I think a lot of other people do too. Thank you very much for being with us. Good evening. All right, very good. Well, we'll enter meeting then with a 4-way test. You all stand, please. One of the things that you think, say, and do is it true? Is it fair and all concerned? Will it never will be beneficial for all concerned?